it's Jean from Happy Indulgence, and today I'm going through my April wrap-up. I can't believe it's May already. I mean, this year is just going by so fast. I read 9 books, and some of them I loved, some of them I didn't, and I'm going to go through them in order from the ones I love the most to the ones I love the least. The first book I read is A Crown of Wishes by Roshani Chokshi. I love this one. I gave this one 5 stars. I felt like it was a great companion follow-up to The Star Touch Queen. I absolutely loved Vikram and Gowri. They had hilarious antagonistic banter, and then I just loved how they slowly realized that they cared about each other. Both of the characters were also really fascinating. I loved Gowri and how she's like a warrior queen, and I also love Vikram and how he's like a false prince, but both of them bonded together really well as they went through the Tournament of Wishes. I just found the Indian mythology and the mesh of the fantasy world in here to be really fascinating, and Roshani just writes so beautifully, so it's just a really great read. I also read Queens of Geek by Jen Wilde, and guys, if you're looking for a diverse book about fangirling and about geekery, this is a book to read. I related to this book so much because one of the characters, Taylor, she experiences social anxiety, and a lot of her thoughts and her emotions were things that I felt myself but couldn't quite say out loud. Reading about Taylor and how she loves to fangirl, how she has a blog of her own, how she thought about her body image sometimes, and even how she deals with social situations, it was just incredibly relatable. I also loved how Taylor and Jamie were the cutest little best friend couple. Everyone knows they have feelings for each other except for themselves, so that was cute as well. I also love Charlie, who is a famous Chinese-Australian YouTuber who gets to go to the convention, and she's a guest trying to get over her douchey co-star. So she's actually a bisexual character, and then she finds a YouTuber there who she falls in love with. I loved how it explored the lesbian relationship as well. So there's a lot going on in Queens of Geek, but it never felt too forced, and the diversity just felt like it was weaved in so naturally. And come on, after reading this, I'm like, authors, you need to include, you know, a different body shape, a different sexual orientation, even a different culture or illness or anything. I mean, it's not that hard. I gave it 4.5 stars. I just felt like it was so relatable. I also read Wires and Nerve by Marissa Meyer, and this is a graphic novel that follows on from the Lunar Chronicles series, and here's some of the illustrations. It took me a while to get around to this, despite the Lunar Chronicles being one of my favorite series of all time, because I'm not a big fan of the art style. I thought it could be a bit more colourful, but as I was reading it, I thought, hey, it's a bit quirky and the characters have hilarious facial expressions, so it actually really suit the series. And I loved how this series followed Eco, which is the android Cinder's best friend, and how she found a purpose for herself, which is tracking down the wolf army that has run amok in Earth. That was really interesting, and Eco she was such a badass character, but she's so honorable, she's so loyal, and she just really wants to see all her friends together, and she sort of works behind the scenes. We also saw all the couples and what they're doing now. If you're a fan of the Lunar Chronicles, definitely pick up Wires and Nerve. It was so cute and charming. The next book I read was Traitor to the Throne by Alwyn Hamilton, and if you haven't heard yet, the first book, Rebel of the Sands, is becoming a movie, and I hope it does it justice because I really love this series. In this book, it really goes through Imani and her character development as she's separated from the rebellion. She's captured by the Sultan, and she finds out all about the politics of the harem. It was interesting to see how conflicted she felt because of the Sultan. He was a really charismatic character, and she began to doubt the revolution and whether they were doing the right thing. I loved how it went deeper into the Middle Eastern setting and into the rebellion and seeing just what's happening behind the palace. The Sultan really thinks he's doing the right thing, even though he took it by violence, and you can really see that he really believes that's how the kingdom should be run. I also love the additional side characters in here. So she's reunited with her cousin Shira, and both of them hated each other, but it was interesting seeing them stick together because they were blood. I also loved Amani and Shazza because of their sisterly relationship. I also love the action scenes. It was fast paced, it was full of action. The twist I really didn't see coming. Traitor to the Throne was a really good second book. It really went into more of the development behind the rebellion and also the new characters and Amani's character development. I really enjoyed it and ended up giving it 4 stars. The next book I read was Rich People Problems by Kwan, and this one is the 3rd book in the Crazy Rich Asians series. I really enjoyed Crazy Rich Asians because of the way that it talked about Chinese culture and Asian countries and super rich people who didn't know what to do with themselves and how they competed with each other with how over the top they could be. Nick, who is the estranged grandson, he needs to make amends with his dying grandmother, and he goes back to Singapore where the family is. There's a lot of gossip about who will inherit the grandmother's will. I also loved Astrid and how she just wanted to follow her heart, but she's always been the good granddaughter, whether she should stick to her heart and what she wants to do or try and please others. So that was another interesting conflict, and I just loved each and every one of these characters. They were zany, it was hilarious, there were lots of hilarious scheming going on, and you just really wanted to know what happened towards the end of the book. Overall, I found it really fun to read, and it was fast paced and really laugh out loud funny. I ended up giving Rich People Problems 4 stars. The next book I read is Night Swimming by Steph Bowe, and I actually went to the launch of this one. It was just really hilarious hearing how Steph ended up coming out with this novel. One day she had a dream about goats and she woke up in the middle of the night and wrote on a piece of paper, "Goat Tragedy," and that's how Night Swimming came about. It's about Kirby, who ends up meeting Iris, who is an Indian girl who has just moved into the small town. She knows she has feelings for Iris, but so does her best friend Clancy. Clancy is her over-the-top Chinese best friend, and he's completely hilarious. There's so many random elements in here. So Kirby has a pet goat called Stanley, and Stanley likes to chew on pot plants, and he even appears in the play. Kirby and Clancy have a lot of hilarious banter with one another. They obviously have a platonic best friend relationship, which you don't see in YA at all. I wonder why, because apparently guys and girls can't be friends. I also loved how adorable the relationship was between Clancy and Iris. Just a romance happening naturally, and I loved how positive and supportive everyone was around her about this. And yes, even though I didn't feel that was too realistic, which is actually unfortunate, it's just a really cute, warming lesbian romance story that has a lot of diverse aspects to it as well. So I ended up giving Night Swimming 3.5 stars. I'll be interviewing Steph as well on my blog, which I will link down below. The next book I read is The Girl Before, which is a psychological thriller, and this is from J.P. Delaney, and obviously this is the ARC edition. It really kept me awake at night, and I was just totally creeped out by it. The whole book revolves around this super slick, creepy house that can sort of like read your mind and read your emotions and sort of deliver the heat setting and the music and the water temperature that you need. The only caveat is that the architect requires the people who live there to abide by 200 completely ridiculous rules just to preserve his house. Things like you can't leave anything lying on the floor, you can't have any pets. Yeah, so there were a lot of these crazy rules. If it was me, I would be like, why the hell would you live in that house when you can't actually live in it, if you know what I mean? As the story unravels, it's told between the past, which is Emma, and the present, which is Jane. And it gets creepier and creepier as you find out about the architect and how he has ulterior motives. You find out that one of the girls has died and Jane is just finding out what's happened and trying to put the pieces together. And then you also have this like cold, super eerie house where you're just wondering, oh my god, does it know your thoughts and does it know your emotions, or am I just going paranoid? I did find a few issues with it, however. I thought the architect reminded me a lot of Christian Grey from 50 Shades of Grey. So he's obviously a perfectionist who wants to control women and who obviously has his own issues. And I don't really like that dynamic between these women throwing themselves at him just because he's intelligent and because he's good looking. There's a violent perpetrator who is accused of raping someone. In here he's portrayed as a black teen, which didn't quite sit well with me. The girl before did have his issues, but I found it super thrilling as well. I ended up giving it 3 stars. The next book I read is The Crown's Fate. And this one is an Imperial Russian fantasy that has a really magical setting. And I loved how the second book felt really atmospheric, just like the first book. Unfortunately, with the plot, I found that it dragged a lot and it was super repetitive. Not that much happens to develop the plot or the characters. So we're told that Nikolai has gone dark and he can start raising the dead, but he has a dark side to him. We're also told that the enchanter Vika wants to be reunited with him, but she's not happy with the chains that she now has, and she can't seem to use the magic that she wants, which is why she became that in the first place. There's also Pasha and Juliana, which are the siblings who are trying to reach the coronation day. They all seem to, interact and go about their day, but I found like it was a lot of repetition and not much plot development. I found myself bored at times, even though I was impressed with the world and the characters. I wish there was a bit more there to keep me going. I ended up giving The Crown's Fate 3 stars. Could have been all wrapped up a lot sooner. I also read Username Evie by Joe Sugg, and this is a graphic novel about a girl who enters a virtual reality world. So I love the art style. It's very edgy and it's very comic book like. The problem I had with this book was I didn't like the characters. So it's about a typical girl who doesn't fit in and she feels lonely and bullied at school. Her dad left behind a virtual reality world that she can fit in. Unfortunately, she's got an evil cousin who follows her into this world. The evil cousin is a popular girl. So you've got the mean girl and the wallflower shy girl. And both of them sort of go into this virtual reality world. One of them is trying to take over the world and be evil, and the other one is just like, oh, yay, there's a handsome boy. I don't know what's going on, but he likes me. Gosh, I just rolled my eyes because like, the storyline really wasn't that complex. I ended up giving Username Eevee 2 stars. I probably won't continue with the next book in the series. The Silent Invasion by James Bradley, and I'm actually reading this for OzYA in April. We're covering The Night Swimming by Steph, which I talked about before, and The Silent Invasion by James Bradley. So OzYA is a monthly segment on ABC local radio in Australia. It starts at 7 PM on Sundays. Every month, and we just talk about the latest OzYA news and review 2 of the latest OzYA releases. So The Silent Invasion, it feels like a copy of The Fifth Wave. It's about a girl who wants to save her sister and they travel through the world to get to quarantine. The problem I had with this book is that as I was reading, I think I got to about 3/4 of it. Nothing much happened except for traveling. There was cardboard cutout characters who I didn't actually know too much about except that they wanted to get out of this world. So they just moved from one place to another, one place to another. The problem I had with this book though, and it's a serious one, is that it features gratuitous animal cruelty, especially to do with a dog that is murdered and killed by a baddie. It went into it way too much over 2 pages and I was so upset for the whole day. I felt really triggered by it because I just can't deal with animal cruelty, especially when it's that detailed, and I felt like it didn't add to the storyline at all. It also came out of nowhere. everywhere and I just couldn't deal with it. If you guys are concerned, it's on page 172 of the book and it goes on for quite a few pages. This is a did not finish. I just could not get into it, and once it reached the animal cruelty scene, I just could not. So these are the 9 books that I read in April. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on them, and if you end up picking any of them up or you want to know more, leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed my video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to see more. Thanks guys, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.